Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Satsang. Let's make some silence first. As I sit, I remain undisturbed, disconnecting myself from inner disturbances that may or not be activated by apparent outer disturbances. By disconnecting, I'm not complying. I don't take anymore these inner manifestations as my will, my desires, my needs, just phenomenons that come and go as I stay still, untouched. Once again, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Satsang. Just reminding everyone, we use WhatsApp as a means of communication. You can send your questions. The number appears on the comments. So today, let's talk about a very important subject, which is spoken sometimes, viewed sometimes, but not taken as seriously as it should. And that is sabotage. And a lot of things fall into this category. Procrastination is one of them. So sabotage, self-sabotage is something very, very, very important because it works in the shadows, in that area that you don't allow yourself to see. And in this way, it is very strong and it gets you tired, eventually frustrated, and with the tendency to give up. And as you don't see this mechanism, you tend to think that you're doing the best you can. And you are, more or less, more or less. But even this vision of you're doing your best you can is also contaminated a little bit by sabotage. And in that way, you tend to see things more perfect than they are. And what is the problem with this? Well, the problem is, if you don't see the mistakes, how can you correct them? And if you imagine, or if you want to see that you're doing the best you can, then the conclusion, the obvious conclusion will be, well, then I have to give up because I'm not capable of. And those conclusions, they are not a result of reasoning according to what is being observed. These conclusions are there already, creating the circumstances so that these observations come and these conclusions, they came prior. They were the end result of the sabotage. So it works backwards. So the sabotage is to make you see without, without a doubt that you're not fit, it's not possible, it's not for you. And this sabotage is well protected by the vision. Your vision is clouded. It's clouded by your world, by what needs to maintain there. And look, through your eyes, your perfection, you're the best seeker of truth, you're the one who is making more effort, you're the one who wants it more, you're more pure, you're more honest, more sincere, all of this. And this is what you want to believe. This is what you want others to believe. And this is what you want to believe. And this is what sustains all of this. Because to see things as they are, or even better, to look for the one who sabotages, which is you, it's difficult. It's unnatural. Because body-mind is wired not to see it. His investments are all directed to create the best image that it can so that others can see. And by others seeing it, they can give me that feedback of that perfect image. And whenever there is a feedback of a bad image, there's suffering. And this suffering usually hurts a lot, hurts so much that you cannot think, you cannot reason. You're just drawn into an environment of negativity that makes you react in automatically without any reasoning, just pushing that aside, pushing that aside. There's many different examples. When things get rough, usually there's this question that comes. Why did this happen to me? Why me? But this is not really a question. It's just, how do you say this? Just alleviating the pressure. It's just a complaint, not a question. Because if it was really a question, you would be trying to see what it was, really, what it was. But that's not what happens. These are automatic constructions with end results that are a part of the equation, not something that comes after. So there's a part of you that wants liberation, that wants you to be successful. But there's the bigger part that doesn't want. It will distract you as it can, and as you are still agreeing with. Then, if it cannot distract you, it will distort whatever you're doing. And you have to understand that this has more power. It has more power than your good intentions and your good wills and all those things. So it's a science of doing things. There's a method. You need to look for the sabotage, for the one who sabotages, trying to identify what is he doing, because he's doing something. Always. It's not enough to build with your hands. You have to make sure that you're not crushing it with your feet. Or else you just, but I'm doing the best I can. And then frustration comes. I'm not suitable. And voila, that's what that side wants. For you to reach that conclusion. Because when you reach that conclusion, what's left? Normal life, normal endeavors, just flowing with the river. You're the one who's sabotaging. And you're pretty far away from perfection. The suitable perfection, or the best alignment towards the path of liberation. And you have to understand this. It is true you want liberation, but it is also true, or even more true, that you don't want. That you will do your level best to be as far away from that as you can. And the more you observe, the more smart this mechanism becomes. But for the one who is paying attention, attention gets more sophisticated also, and starts to recognize little things, little just, when this advances, because in the beginning it's very grotesque, you can see it if you just look at it. But then as it becomes more subtle, you will see hints here, there, small ones, innocent, apparently innocent. But as you have trained your eyes, and as you have come to this understanding that you need to find this sabotage and stop it so that your investments bear fruit, then you'll get better and better at it also. There's a tendency of seeing interferences, sabotages coming from the external circumstances. And there is at the level of physicality, and at this level, partially is yours, the other part is, well, there's a lot of interests to keep you blind, a lot. Ignorance and suffering feeds a lot of things. But this is more meaningful as your part is there. When your part is not there anymore, the power that these things have reduces drastically. So it's not just about observing and improving what you're doing already in the good way and optimizing that. You have to look in which ways are you sabotaging. To be able to identify and to realign. Because this sabotage, I will repeat it again, exists for the single purpose of driving you to the conclusion that you are not fit for the path of liberation. When it is serious, of course. When it is just a walk in the park, well, that's something else. But when it is serious, that will mean that you will be intensely into it. So, as you are more intense, you'll be more fragile to failures, not being able, this and that. And this is the point of that sabotage. It's to drive you to that ultimate conclusion, hoped conclusion that you're not fit, so that you can reuse your time again into the same old structures and on and on and on. And the more negativity you gain from that, the better, because more negativity will be more in a downward direction, becoming more dense and dense and dense. So it's all good for the sake of failure, for the sake of maintaining illusion. The worse, the better. So these thoughts are very, very, very recurrent, and they bring a lot of confusion. Because for you, you're convinced, and that means at an instinctive level, that you're the best seeker, that you're trying your level best, you're doing whatever you can, and this and that. There's no room where you are misbehaving, where you are going against it, where you are disrespecting your spiritual process. There's no room for this. But this is happening a lot, all the time. And as it gets pointed in some way, if you have that blessing of being pointed, the tendency is to go against it, to fight that. It becomes so painful that you are only able to react. Reptilian brain. It's fight or run away. You cannot think. So would you say it's a test from karma? Not calling it test is, how do you say? It's the mechanics of it, of illusion. It's what makes difficult and complex to transcend illusion, because it has many layers, many complexities. But if you want to look at as tests, yes, it can be also seen in this way. But that's from the point of view of that which is testing, not from the point of view of the one who is being tested. And this is the point of view that I'm focusing. You, there in the middle of your quest, trying to optimize your efforts, your time, to get more results. I always repeat, you are your biggest obstacle. And this is true. And it's by far very, very important, much more than it's usually seen. Because there are certain things that are innate, unquestionable, apparently, until you question it. There's an expression in Portuguese that resumes more or less itself to hell is full of good intentions. More or less has to do with this. And as you keep on going into these automatics, just thinking that you're doing the best you can, you are the best seeker, and this is not being recognized by the divine, and it's not seeing your efforts and all of this. Well, if the divine is there present in some form, it will be more interested in informing you that which you're doing, which is going against your desire for liberation, because that is the real obstacle. But if you understand this, you will take it up in your hands, because that is part of your work. And the more you grow spiritually, to keep growing, your focus has to increase. Your attention will already move from these grosser things, which are in place already, and to details, details, more details, more details. And it's impossible to get there if sabotage is still there. So the right things are there in place, more or less from what I can see, because vision is limited to your illusion. So you cannot trust everything that you see, but more or less, okay. So now, what are the things that are misplaced? What am I doing countering this? Where is this character getting some sort of relief? Where is investing here that is not supposed to, but I'm just going with the flow, or neglecting it, just not looking at it? These are the gross aspects. Then they are more subtle and subtle. You have to look. Each time you open your mouth to say something, you have to question before that. What do I really want with this? Is this concerns my process of liberation? Or am I trying to affirm this mistaken identity, fighting for acceptance, for importance, fighting against rejection? What is this? Why am I speaking? Why am I going to do this? In which category does this enters? And you will see that roughly 95% of engagements will be, you will stop them. 95%. And you will start to see more and more how you feed these apparent structures. And the more you see it, the more you can come out of it. So starting a spiritual practice, giving space, investments towards the thirst for liberation, that's the main thing. In the end, that's what will make the difference, the thirst for liberation. Willpower helps awareness, yes, but it is the thirst for liberation that will help you to use that willpower in the right direction, because it is there, it can be used both ways. It will be used both ways. But if you can see, if you want to see, a lot of things will start to be clear to you. That most of the obstacles and the majority of reasons that you're not evolving, it's because of your sabotage. Because all day long is connected. Whatever you do when you're not sitting and meditating is preparing or creating obstacles for that moment that you're sit in meditation. Your meditation is preparing the other moments while you're not sitting meditating. So it's a cycle. And there's nothing innocent. There's an attitude that guarantees that you are deepening more and more. There's an attitude which doesn't. And it's not black and white. With your best intentions, with doing everything in its place, there will be room for sabotage. Gross sabotage, small sabotage, doesn't matter. It becomes smaller when your focus gets bigger. So it has to be more intelligent and prepare things in the long run. So that eventually, when you reach a point where you become a little bit more fragile, poof, here it comes. And it sweeps you off the ground. Because if you're strong, there's no point in attacking you. It would be revealing itself unnecessarily. And these mechanisms, they subside because they are not seen. When you start to see them, things will work differently. And like I said, in other satsangs, when things are rough, when there's a lot of obstacles, in a way it's easier to focus. When these obstacles disappear, things become more shanti, better. It's much more easy to distract. It's a natural tendency. So all these natural tendencies, you need to become aware and go beyond them. Doesn't matter if it's raining or if the sun is shining, you keep it steady. And the more simple your routine gets, the more easy it is for you to visualize. But you will always need the eyes of the devil's advocate, questioning what you are doing, because you will justify what you're doing with the best intentions. But then you have to ask the question, what do I, as the character, has to gain with this? Because the character is in this journey not for gains, it's for losing. Losing all that sustains it. Because as it's losing what's sustaining it, it starts to become more simple until dissolution. As it is gaining something, it grows, or at least survives. Even if it's not prospering, it survives. And it can survive with very little. You are your biggest obstacle. And this is very, very important. Because the majority of time, you're doing the best you can, yes, where you're looking. And that is a small part, a narrow tunnel. And you're doing the best you can also to break that practice, to take you to frustration, to stop that. This is also true. This is also true. So whatever is going there, in that inner space of perception, so there's the part of the meditation that is concerned about fixing your attention at one point so that you abstract from the rest, to bring a cleaner mind, a steady, pure mind. And this is to make, to live clear, in a clear way, to make recognizable the observer and that which is observed. Because firstly, they seem to be the same. But as this work continues, the distance increases. And as the distance increases, it becomes clear that the observer is here and I can remain here. And then remaining here is no more in the sense of making these things disappear. No, it's to remain in myself. Remain at this center. Sabotage is not a random incident. It's not something that sometimes appears. The sooner you get distracted, and this is the most easily thing in the world, you're sabotaging. And even concentrated, if your intentions are not really clear, and this takes a long time, you'll be agreeing to things that telling yourself they are innocent, but they are not. And they are ensuring you that you don't progress. So the attention has to be on both sides. Not only making sure that you're doing the best you can, but also making sure that you are not doing anything that can disturb that. And you must remind yourself that no, you're not the best one, your intentions are not the best one, and there are things to be solved there, to remove, to rectify, or at least not allowing for those disturbances. So bringing this clarity into your spiritual practice is very important. Because, or else, remember, these things are not innocent. The end result, the intended result, is ultimately you giving up. Is it because you found something more interesting? Doesn't matter. Or because you have gotten really frustrated, you're not being able to move on. Doesn't matter which route it follows. Because if the mind can seduce you to go do something else and forget about that, or pause it, or relax it a little bit, or forget about it completely, whatever it can take is good. But if it can divert your attention, good. If it brings you to a point of frustration where it is obvious that you're not good enough and you're not able to, the better. It doesn't matter. As long as it keeps you distracted, moving in circles, it doesn't matter the hows, just the result. And this is important also for another aspect. This recognition, this knowing I'm the biggest obstacle in my spiritual path. And removing yourself from this need to convince others that you are good, beautiful, best, whatever. Because when the work starts seriously and guidance comes, guidance will point this. And if you have not solved this, you just dive into those cycles of negativity, fighting against that, instead of making the best use of that guidance. And that is time wasted. And then there is those ones that get frustrated, but they don't really give up. They don't really start in the first place, but they don't really give up. So they remain in a lifeless spiritual path, just with the form, spiritual practices, usually readings and things like, and group gatherings and things like that. Meditation, if it's lightly, maybe, but not intensely. It's more difficult to maintain with a superficial practice. So in these cases, they usually tend to see, oh, there was a difficult test in front, I've give up, but then it must be destiny. It must be God's will that I didn't make it through, that I gone through it, that I wasn't able to succeed. It must be part of that divine plan. It must be destiny. It's interesting that this thought didn't came previously. When you were facing that challenge, that test, you didn't said to yourself, this is what God wants for me. I have to go through this no matter the consequences. It is destiny. These things come after to amend things so that you don't give up and you continue in the same way in a lifeless path. Understand that the sweet aspects of the spiritual path, they will not be able to uproot that which is sabotaging. In a way, it gives food also. So compassion, divine compassion, will offer you opportunities to uproot this negative part. Negative in a sense that it creates an obstacle for greatness, for your liberation. And those images that you don't want to see, in a way, that's what you really believe, but that's that's something for another satsang entirely. These things have to be uprooted. So sweet and bitter, they come together in guidance. And the more you are ready, the more grown up you become, the more bitter it becomes, because as you remove more obstacles, it's like you're trying to push a heavy obstacle and you need, let's say, a strength of 100 kilos by square centimeter. If you can remove the weight of the obstacle, that same strength that you're applying will take it farther away. So being aware of your own sabotage, your plans to deviate, hijack in some way your spiritual process. Understand that they are there, they are always working. Become aware at all times. Okay. So for today, that's all. Next satsang will be probably Saturday, 9:30 in the morning, Brazilian time, UTC -3. Until then, make the best use of your time. Make it real.